Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to a new Boardside podcast, episode 3 if I'm not mistaken. Today I'm joined by Apiro. How's it going?
Hi, really well. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thanks for co-hosting this episode today. We've got
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Yeah, happy to have you. So we've got it's been a wee while actually. There was a few scheduling problems with, not with you, but just with getting this episode going. So this is probably like a month in the making, I think. So it's good we're finally here.
Well, I hope it's worth it.
I'm sure it will
Worth
be.
the wait.
So we've got a few topics here. We're not going to try and keep this fairly, timely. So probably around a half an hour or so. So we'll try and get through them because we've got a decent amount to cover. So since the last podcast, there's been a lot of Gwent stuff going on. I think there's just been a lot of stuff going on with Gwent in general in the past wee while. We've had a couple of big patches. We've obviously had the mobile release. The big disconnection with leaders and abilities was very big.
That's true. Yeah.
And I think there's a lot more to come too. So you've been playing a lot in the last wee bit.
Yeah, in the last wee bit. So for those who don't know, I actually played a lot during the beta and only came back to this about a month and a half, 2 months ago. So yeah, I've kind of come in at the height of all of these changes happening right now. And it's honestly, I find it really exciting. So here we are.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that you've kind of... Oh, because I was kind of similar, I've been playing a lot of it recently too, but I didn't play any of the beta, really at all. So it's quite interesting,
Right.
opinions of someone who played a lot of the beta and someone who didn't really at all.
All right, well.
So why don't we start with just this one might be more of a me topic since you've been playing most of the last couple of months, but kind of the feeling of the game now I think is quite a significant thing. That it's a lot harder to notice if you haven't played.
No, I would like to kind of butt in and say
Please.
I did play Homecoming at the very beginning. So actually I feel like for me maybe the changes are even more noticeable because I've kind of gone from the very early release to right now. And so the changes therefore between the two kind of feel like they are just almost completely different games in my mind.
So for those who are unaware what I'm talking about, basically the last couple of patches, specifically patch 4 with Iron Judgment, and then I think 4.1 was the mobile release, have really kind of tidied the game up in terms of just overall feel and just quality of life, I guess, ease to play. Things just feel just better, And that's
Snappy.
Yeah. So I think it's been super important, and it's probably been one of the, might be the biggest change to the actual feeling of the game, ever.
Yeah. I mean, also recently, was it just, I can't remember, was it 2 weeks ago or whatever, with the changes decoupling logic and animations? Yeah, that to me has been a big change. I'm not sure it always works, just from my stream experience. I've kind of found a few times my leader doesn't actually hit the right thing or something along those lines, but I think most of the time it seems to be running a lot more smoothly.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a limit to it. I think I noticed you can't you can't queue things up. So if you've got
Right.
I can't remember the exact example, but if you've got a card that's maybe pinging 10 times or something, you can't queue up an order once you're 5 times into that kind of thing. So it's not fully decoupled, I don't think, but everything is just a lot faster, and that's obviously to do with... Sorry, you go.
I was just gonna make a terrible joke. I was just gonna say it's semi-coupled.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's slightly decoupled, but it's not fully decoupled.
Yeah, it's halfway there. But it's super noticeable from where it was before, where everything just took ages.
Right,
and
yeah.
I think it's obviously because of mobile, right? So for those who are unaware, Gwent was released on iOS, was it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? It was very recently.
Do you have an iOS device?
I have an iPad.
Yeah. Have you been trying it?
Yeah, so I've been playing it on the iPad. Not a ton because I don't have I don't really have a ton of use cases for an iPad. Honestly, I'm either at the computer, or if I'm not at the computer, I'm generally not doing Gwent stuff. But I've been trying to play it, and it's really good. I'd go as far as to say it's the best way to play Gwent.
Whoa!
It's really good.
Whoa! Okay.
I know.
Good call.
I'm not sure I'd say the same for like an iPhone, but just something about like
Right.
a big screen, and, like the art looks really good. Like if you've got a new iPad, you can run it in like 4K.
I was gonna say, yeah, because I've been seeing a lot of people, for example, on Reddit being like, oh, I just sit there and just scroll through the art. Like I don't even play sometimes.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, you know what? I would probably do that.
Yeah, I literally did that. I just went to the top of the list, premium only, flipped it around so it went full screen. I just swiped through it till I got to the end. So it's pretty good. So I mean,
do you have a favorite card art? Was there like one in particular that really?
Living Armor's really good because I was looking through all the Iron Judgment ones. Living Armor is very cool. How it kind of just like appears out of nothing. That's pretty cool. Or Old Geared is pretty gnarly too. How he just like has all the swords just going to him. So that looks awesome. Pretty decent.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just been like the game just feels so much better. You know,
nice.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It just overall just like I think the future is very bright. Like for considering like the game's playability, not taking other things into account like the meta and whatever else. But the game is a lot more playable than it used to be, which is super cool.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean that's definitely what brought me back even before this latest patch, but I mean this latest patch has just made it even better. But was that difference between the initial release and now. Honestly I feel like they're different games, and it was like just felt so much easier, and as you said, with each patch it just feels easier and easier and quicker and more efficient, and it's just, I don't know, satisfying to play, I suppose.
Yeah, I think a lot of people made a point that maybe Gwent should have still been called a beta for a little while, and like I feel like now it could really be like this is like excellent 1.0, like let's go. Yeah,
didn't someone said that the other day, like, oh, this is the real Homecoming, or like this is the real full release, or
which is funny because I feel like because I pretty much started playing maybe a month after Homecoming came out, like seriously playing, and I feel like people have been saying that for every expansion, which is good and bad if you think about it. Like it's bad because like it should be there already, right? But it's also good because just I feel like every expansion, every big change has just been like really good.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be like the most uncontroversial podcast ever, really, isn't it? Because we're just like, yeah, this is great. Everything's great.
I like Gwent.
I like Gwent. I enjoy it.
Yeah, basically.
Zero salt so far.
The first part, anyway. We'll see about later.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, moving on a bit, but it's kind of staying in like new expansion range. Probably should have done this part first, but either way. So Iron Judgment like came out a month and a half ago now, so it's actually been a little while, which is the second, I guess, full expansion since Gwent Homecoming. So I just wanted to kind of gauge your thoughts on like the quality of the expansion overall, because obviously before it comes out in the first couple of weeks after, everyone's like, hell yeah, expansion, like everyone's so excited, like no one can really say a bad thing about it, right? But now it's, the dust has settled, it's been 6 weeks or whatever. How do you think it's kind of laid down?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't have a lot to compare it with, but just given what I've seen, I was really happy with the kind of quick patch, whatever you want to call it, that kind of came out soon afterwards, because I was a bit freaked out by Mystic Echo potential, basically, especially with the dwarves, of course. And it kind of reminded me, I know this is before your time, Zade, but early 2018, we also had like a dwarf meta, and it went on for like, I don't know, like a month and a half, 2 months.
I've heard about it.
And I was kind of, I was seeing it, and I was just going, oh God, is it happening again? Please don't tell me it's happening again. So I was very happy to see a little bit of adjusting going on in that regard. For me, I don't know. I've just been really enjoying it. I mainly play Nilfgaard, so for me, I've been really excited about Assimilate and the addition of more Assimilate cards, because I just feel like that has actually made quite a few decks more viable and exciting to play, frankly.
Yeah, I think Assimilate in particular is very fun. I've always been a fan of it.
Yeah. I think if you're a Nilfgaard player, you have to kind of enjoy pissing people off a little bit. Like,
100%.
it's kind of part of the enjoyment. So
Yeah.
I don't have much shame about it. I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm playing bribery. What are you gonna do? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's like very impressive how the expansion has it's kind of settled. Like, I don't think I've ever seen Gwent in such a good state in terms of like the decks that are being played.
yeah.
All the factions are pretty much represented. Like Skellige's,
Skellige.
kind of at the bottom, but every so often you'll still see a Skellige deck, right? If Skellige is your only faction you play, there's still like a deck or two you could make. Like even if everyone else might be maybe one deck, and maybe you won't win all the time, but it's not like complete dumpster, right?
Look, but I mean, okay, it's not complete dumpster. It's also not like great.
No.
I don't know how to say it nicely. But I suppose, for me, as I said, I mainly play Nilfgaard, and for me, I enjoy the play style. And so I think if Skellige is the play style that you enjoy, like in particular, something I really enjoyed in the beta, which I think we could see more of in the full release version, is the ability to damage your own units for the benefit of the game. I feel like there are so many units already that are tied to damaging enemy units only, and I would love to see that relaxed a little bit, because there's so much more you can do that are kind of tricky creative plays when that's released. So if you're the kind of person who really enjoys that idea, damaging your own units to gain a benefit to the game, then obviously you're going to like playing Skellige, even if you might not win as much as you would if you played a different game style, but then you wouldn't have as much fun, so...
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's about fun, right? So I think people can still have fun with Skellige, like... And if you're a good player, you can... you could probably make anything work, but...
Yeah. If you're a good player, you could beat us with Skellige.
Oh,
but 100%. But if you're us, then you can't.
Yeah, luckily Skellige is not my favorite, so I don't have to try and make it work.
No, mine neither. Though, like there are some fun decks that I would really like to kind of revisit, but I guess I'm kind of just crossing fingers and toes that we'll see a few more cards or some tweaks to cards that will allow it to be a bit more playable in future.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's not out of the realm of possibility either. So.
Well, you'd assume not. I'm pretty sure CDPR isn't in the dark about this situation, so I'm sure we'll see something.
And one thing that I'd like to hear your opinion on, were you involved in I call it the hype cycle for Iron Judgment and all? Like, were you up with all the cards being released?
Hype cycle?
Like if...
Oh,
Like, were you following the card releases and stuff?
No, I yes and no. So I was seeing them coming out. I'd kind of only just come back to the game, I think 2 weeks before it was released. So given that I was, streaming and casting community tournaments, and we had the Gwent talk show and all that stuff during beta, I'm still on a lot of CDPR's lists. Right. So I was kind of aware that it was all happening, and, got to see the cards being released and all that kind of thing. But I wasn't streaming enough. Like, I'd just come back, so I wasn't part of the hype cycle. If I didn't get a card to release. Yeah. But that was just cut a little bit too fine.
Yeah.
It's like with Challenger. Yeah, like with Challenger, I actually don't live super far from Poland, and I kind of didn't know that it would be open to people, and I kind of came back to the game, I think it was like a week or a week and a half before Challenger was on, and I was like, if I'd come back just 1 month earlier, I would have known, and I could have gone, and timing is everything sometimes.
Yeah.
I guess.
There'll always be another opportunity. Well, we hope so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a topic in itself, really, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Hopefully we find out soon, TM. So.
Yeah. Well, what I was gonna ask is
yeah.
Were you aware of everyone? Well, not everyone, but a lot of people being very concerned about the Defender cards before they came out.
I mean, you've just used past tense, but I think that people are still concerned about Defender cards. There are still some people. I'm on Reddit a lot, and there are quite a few people there who are still like, Like there was a post the other day that was called Gwent the Defender card game, and there were like 3 defenders on each row or something along those lines. So I know there are still some people who are a bit like, haha, like they either see it as a joke or they see it as, making engines too viable or making decks uncounterable. But personally, I just think it makes Purify a bit more viable and kind of adds some impetus to keep those cards around a bit more than even before.
Yeah, I mean, we'll cover this kind of in the same vein a bit later with like the leader ability discussion. Sure. But I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like everyone was very riled up about defenders, and then they came out, and they're not really that good. I mean, they're good, but they're not like people. A lot of people were saying it's like this is like the death of Gwent. Like I heard streamers say they will stop streaming Gwent. They will stop playing if they don't change defenders. They're not that great. Like they're not that impactful. They're good.
They're not that impactful, and I feel like it's one of these things. I made a little video the other day, which was about like beginner tips to defeat enslaved decks. Why I did it, I don't know, because now everyone knows how to counter me, which is so stupid of me. But anyway, I put up this video, and one of the things I said was to save a Purify, until you see the defender, essentially. And I feel like that's nowadays, I feel like everyone who is above that beginner level knows you got to hold on to a Purify, you've got to have access to a Purify or something along those lines. And then you're kind of fine when it comes to defender. Like there isn't a lot that can go wrong if you have that on hand. And I guess they're definitely not uncounterable, and they're definitely not OP. I feel like they are a good addition, especially for decks that are engine based. And they give you that little bit more time. I suppose the Syndicate Defender as a Javed is a little more on the fence as to how balanced that
he's
card
interesting because you can beat him so easily if you have anything with bleed, right? But if you don't, then it's like doubly as hard.
Or no, not even with Lambert could you? So
no.
But I had a great one the other day where I dropped Shoop Hunter and got damage 3x3 and managed to wipe
Too
it
easy.
out. So there you go. Just play Shoop. Easy.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the whole last week has been about, so...
Right? Yeah, there you go. That's why Syndicate has lost every single match in the last week.
Yep. 100%. Yep. I think they've been, like, quite a cool way to open new strategies, which sounds weird, but, like, there's cards from before that you just couldn't play unless you were really memeing it up. Like, like these are still meme cards for sure, but like Regis, whatever the drain Regis vampire is that order drains a unit, or like Damien for Nilfgaard and stuff. It just makes like a lot of these really powerful order cards that are super fun to play, like a lot less difficult. Like it's still hard because your opponent will be looking for them, especially if you're running a defender and you can't just do it all at once. But I think it just allows for protecting those things that are very powerful and a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see if it ends up being like what we used to have with what we called the weather cycle, which was back in the day when people would run weather would become really popular, and then everyone would have to start running counters to weather. And then once everyone was running counters to weather, then people would stop playing weather. Yeah. And so then people would stop running the counters, and then we'd start over again. Nice. So it might be interesting to see if a similar thing happens here. Like right now, defenders are super in fashion, so to speak. And obviously people are now starting to run purifies. I think in the last week, no, not the last week, probably in the last 2 or 3 days, I haven't had a single defender stay a defender more than one turn. So it will be interesting to see whether then people stop running defenders and then the purifiers go away and it all comes back again.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think it depends on the faction too. Like, you probably know this better than me, but most Nilfgaard decks would just run the defender, right? Or almost every single one would be running the defender at this point. But like I've noticed in Northern Realms, people are like,
yeah,
just doesn't give very good value. We'll just get rid of him. Like, can't believe it because he's so good.
and also like weirdly because Northern Realms has so many engines, so you assume that would be one of the decks where it would thrive. But
maybe it's just because there's so many. you just
Yeah.
who needs defending
Maybe
them
that's
because
it.
you've
Yeah,
got
you
so
just
many.
just keep spamming engines. Yeah, one of them will stick eventually.
Yeah,
So.
definitely. So, like I kind of alluded to earlier, in the same vein with people getting, a lot of people getting concerned about defenders. A lot of people were also very concerned about the change that came with Iron Judgment, which was the disconnection of leaders and abilities.
Yes.
This is a bit more of a contentious topic, but I don't know how contentious it is right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say to me, it's not super contentious right now. I feel like everyone's already kind of adjusted. Personally, I like playing leaders who are women because I'm a lady.
Makes sense.
I don't know if you noticed, but
yeah. Checks out.
So for me, it's really cool to be able to play, Anna Henrietta, for example, regardless of what power I'm playing, especially because I am Anna as well. So it's kind of like there are little things like that that kind of just make it, for me personally, it's a quality of life thing that has sat very well with me. I'm not sure why anyone would have a problem with it nowadays. What do you think? Like, why is it that people reacted like that?
Yeah, I guess it was just such a big change, right? It was kind of like you're removing one of the rows, like from beta or to a lesser extent
cards or whatever.
Yeah, or removing reach to like a smaller extent. But yeah, like afterward, like I feel like I was one of the only, not to like be like, ooh, I'm so smart, but I feel like I was one of the only streamers like beforehand. I was like, it'll be fine. And like I was like, sweet, it'll be cool. At least like, but like, maybe it's just the vocal ones you hear, right? But I was pretty unconcerned, right?
I feel like the reason that people would have been tied to it is because of the history of leaders being a card. Do you know what I mean? So like in their mind, a leader is a card with a set ability, and so therefore separating the two seems to be just wrong. Like having just 2 rows seems wrong when you come from The Witcher 3. So it's kind of one of those situations, I suppose, where it's more probably to do with people's hearts than their heads.
Yeah,
would be
possibly.
My instinct.
Yeah. I think like it's been a wee while now. I think it's like totally gone probably like the best it could have as of this point. Like I feel like no one talks about it at all. Like it just seems so exactly. It just seems super archaic now, the old system, right? It's like I have to play this leader. Like why should I have to do that?
Yeah. Well, leaders have a lot of different tactics, they can implement tactics that they've learnt from other leaders,
Exactly.
Maybe Anna Henrietta's been checking out Amir, been checking out Calvate, been like, oh, what can I do? I could steal a little bit of the song on there. Oh, let's take that little strategy you got there. And then bada bing, bada boom, she's playing all kinds of things.
Exactly. I think there's one thing I don't like about it. And I think, which I'd be interested to hear if you agree. So I just feel like it gives... The good thing about how it used to be is that, let's say Eridan, his ability was boost the unit by 3 and give shield or whatever. Like that ability it's bad. It's not a good ability, right? Let's be honest. And it's relatively uninteresting too. It's quite simple. Like it's very clearly a new player ability, which is fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing against that. But before they were disconnected, the fun of playing that ability was like, oh, I'm going to try and make Eridan work, right? It wasn't about the ability, it was that like, oh, this guy's playing Eridan, like, cool. And I will say that the only downside about the change, in my opinion now, is that, like, you pick Eridan whenever you want. So you can just do that, but and there's real no reason to play Carapace. It's not like, oh, he's running Eridan, it's like, oh, he's using Carapace, I'll just win.
Yeah. But I mean, on the flip side, you could just say the same thing about they see the ability and then they say the same thing. Oh, he's trying to make Carapace work. I
guess it's just that there's less like pizzazz to making Carapace work versus making Eridan work.
Yeah, but I mean that is also tied to lore, and I know that it's not always the case. I know a lot of people come from The Witcher into Gwent, but there are a decent number of people who don't know the lore at all and wouldn't have that same association. They don't see Eridan as like big boss. They just are like, oh yeah, it's Eridan.
Yeah,
cool.
some dude.
Like
I think,
but I do actually. You've touched on something actually that I do want to just say quickly, which is that you said, "Oh, Carapace is kind of a beginner ability." One thing I will say is I really like that when you choose the ability for your deck, they say like I think it's beginner, intermediate, and advanced, or something.
yeah,
Along
just
those
I think
lines.
it's just beginner advanced. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, that makes
yeah.
sense. Because I feel like that kind of gives people, especially those who are newer to the game, which of course, hopefully we continue to get a lot of now that with the iOS release, it gives them a little bit of guidance as to what to go with early on. So I feel like that was a really good call by Sydney.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like I feel like the new player like onboarding is just so much better. Just like with the new tutorial that came out a wee while ago, and just all the tooltips, like yeah, just it feels so much more like welcoming for a new player, which is super cool.
Yeah, I mean, I love new players, and I don't say that just from a like, yeah, let's get Gwent growing perspective.
I'll have to beat them.
I find new, and I also don't come from the perspective of defeating them, which I always will. But I do come at it from a perspective of like, there is so much enthusiasm, and I really like it's like injecting new blood. You know, they just bring the whole place alive, and you can see it. For example, I know I keep talking about Reddit, but on the Reddit community, you can really see how like the whole subreddit has come alive again because all of these people are coming in just being like, I love Gwent. Why is this game so cool? I'm totally addicted, and you're like, all right, yeah. Like, it's kind of I feel like it can when you've got people who are just constantly aiming to get like somewhere between, you know, rank 0 and rank 2 every season, then it starts kind of getting this feeling of tension or saltiness and people you know, take themselves a bit too seriously, maybe take the game a touch too seriously from time to time, and I feel like new players kind of help provide that kind of wider perspective of, oh, that's right, this is freaking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like, not everyone has to be like a, you know, like you said, like a pro reg player or something. Like having a variety across ladder, I think is really important. Like, I'd be interested to see like before, you know, say, you know, like a month ago stats and now of like the distribution of people in ladder by like the end of a season. So like, you know, it's like last day of the season, like what percentage are left in like rank 25 to 15, and you know, seeing how that change would be very interesting, I feel.
Yeah, that would be really awesome. I have a feeling, like, I really hope when we do hear this roadmap information from CDPR, I suspect that a lot of that will be based on how iOS has gone and how the new players are going, like what kind of retention rate they have, how many people are actually downloading it on the regular, not just at initial release.
Yeah, definitely.
So it'll be really interesting. I hope that they release some statistics alongside that.
Yeah.
The data nerd inside me is like, let me see.
Me too.
So
it'd be cool to see. On that topic to finish off here, because I know you've got to get to a stream. What would be your wish list? So if you mentioned the upcoming roadmap, there is a roadmap like soon TM. I'm going to guess within the next week or two. It was about a week ago it was said, so it can't be too far away.
Yeah.
What would you want to see on that? What would be your ideal list on that roadmap?
All right, off the top of my head, I can think of 3 things. All right, the first is Android. Release date when?
Yep.
Because I've only got Android devices, so I'm like, hi.
Me too.
The second thing I would like to know is about the competitive scene. I'm not a competitive pro player, but obviously you and I are both on Team Aretusa, and we have a lot of I was about to say co-workers, teammates who are on the competitive scene or who have, you know, taken a step back and are waiting for information on that. So I guess from that perspective, I feel like once we have that information, assuming it's good news, I feel like that will kind of bring everyone back together again, and then we can all be like, we can just be like, yay iOS, yay Android, yay competitive scene, yay Gwent, you know, and we can all just like throw the streamers in the air and have a little Macarena or something. But the third thing I would really like to see, which I don't think we're going to get information about anytime soon, is a spectator mode. I'm holding hope. I'm in for the long haul when it comes to this. So I'm holding out hope because certainly it would make community tournaments a lot easier, and it would make doing things like getting casting experience for those of us who enjoy kind of doing that a lot easier as well. So I think that's definitely on my list. Kind of again extending off from that. So I've got a fourth one. I'm sorry. Is I would love to see some sort of inbuilt mechanism for tournaments. So I'm not saying like for setting up like proper tournaments. I feel like that has to be its own kind of thing. But I more mean like casual tournaments for casual players who can just join, you know, a best of 4 or a best of 8 or a best of 16 or something along those lines. Just randomly, and maybe you just get dust or ore as a prize. You know, that kind of thing. I feel like that would be really fun. And it would bring a different style of play or a different strategic thing. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Strategic element, I suppose, to casual players. Yeah. Which I think would be really fun.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I would love a way on stream to be like, all right, today's like community tournament Friday or whatever, and you just like make a link and you give it to you put in a stream title, and then people join, and you could just like cast them with a spectator mode, and just like you know, you buy like 5 kegs, and then it's like, right, winner gets 5 kegs. So that would be super cool.
Yeah, that would be boss.
Yeah, I think you pretty much like hit all the main notes there that most people are thinking. Like season 2, like competitive news, people have been like just chomping for news on that, and I think we are going to get it soon, hopefully, because it's been a wee while. Come on. Yeah, so that would be super nice. Spectator mode would be great.
Again, I hold out hope, but I also don't hold out any hope at all. So
honestly, I think we'd see it, because like it exists, right? It exists, like you see it in the Challenger events, like they have spectator mode, right? So like it exists in some form, so it can't be too hard to get it over, right? Like you wouldn't think so, but maybe there's something holding them up. But yeah, that would be great. And
absolutely,
maybe like one last thing. Do you think an expansion every 3 months is too much? Without having too much experience with previous expansions?
I was gonna say, I feel like I'm not qualified to answer because I haven't been around that much yet. I would say at this stage, I don't feel like it's too much, because I don't feel like we have a lot of decks, but we don't have that many decks that I'm like, wow, we're flooded, let's stop here. You know, I feel like there's a lot of potential still, so I think every 3 months is great now. I think eventually it will get to the point where it is too much, and then I'll have to slow down a little. Maybe every 4 months even would be a good compromise. Yeah, I like to see that on the roadmap, just like an idea of like the next year of content or what's to come or something. Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, cool. Well, I think we'll end it there. I know we're both fairly busy, and that's covered most of our little topics today. So thanks so much for coming on. Where can people find you? What's the best place for people to see what you do? So the main place is on Twitch, twitch.tv/apero_TV. That's the best place to go. It's got a link to my Twitter and my Discord and all that stuff, so that's the place to go, for sure. Cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much, Apero. I look forward to doing it again sometime.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. See you later.
Go. Cheers. See ya.